Very good. So I hope that you can all hear me really well and see me. I'm really happy to lead the session today. My name is Katka Letzing. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Keystar Innovation and also co-initiator of the Swiss AI Weeks. And see it in more. We really want to do this session to invite amazing speakers who can share the different details to about the Swiss LLM, Apertus, but also gotta give you a chance to learn more about the different challenges and to see how can we hack that in the upcoming all of the hackathons that we have planned. So maybe first is this session is recorded. We hope that if you can help us with questions to put in the chat as we go through the presentations. And in the end, we have a longer Q&A session. And we are recording this so we can then share it with additional hackers all around because we got requests from over 400 hackers by now for different cities. So we're excited to do that in the next 3 weeks. So maybe for the agenda, we are hoping to tell you a bit more about the Apertus model from the technical side, then the APIs that we are providing during the hackathon, and then maybe some of the hacks, how to use the Apertus and Hugging Face and also Swisscom platform, and we'll see the Q&A. And I'm really excited to have the following speakers here. So Emmanuel Schlag, who is the research scientist at ETH AI Center. Jörg Stucker is the partner at Kickstart Innovation and also the team of the Swiss AI Weeks. Claudia Romano is the senior software engineer at Panther and is part of Swiss AI Weeks team. Then Daniel Dobbel is the research director at Swisscom and also co-initiator of the Swiss AI Weeks. And then myself here in the moderation. So let's maybe start with the first presentation. I would love to give word to Emmanuel to walk us through our new friend Apertus, and I can take care of the slides. If you tell me to next, I can help on that.
Wonderful, great. Thanks for having me, and hello to everyone who is interested in hacking around with LLMs, or in particular Apertus. We're quite excited to see what you guys are going to build, and also to learn about what might not work, what does work, and how we may improve it further in the future. This is a multi-year effort that we just started now, and we're quite excited to make this as useful as possible for everyone who wants to build on this. And so we are very excited to see what is going to come out. If positive or negative, I think both are going to be acceptable outcomes. So let's start. I will give you a bit of an intro to Apertus, but first about the Swiss initiative that gave birth to Apertus essentially. The Swiss initiative is a research initiative led by ETH Zurich and EPFL and includes many different institutions, and it has the goal to develop the capabilities, know-how, and talent around generative AI, in particular large language models, but not only large language models. There's many projects that are ongoing within the Swiss initiative, and all of these projects have the goal to build trustworthy, aligned, and transparent AI, and to make these things available for the public, be it in Switzerland, but also abroad, the greater open source community. The initiative itself was inaugurated around 2023 and involves a lot of institutions all over Switzerland, lots of professors and researchers. There's a good chance, if you know a PhD student, that he is to some extent involved in this. And the initiative has about 20 million Swiss francs in funding and 15 million GPU hours per year to give out through big calls and also smaller calls. So if you're also associated with some institution, some university, well, you don't have to be yourself, but you need to have like a PI, a co-project investigator that is associated with EPFL ETH Zurich. And then you can also apply for these resources through the swissai.org website. However, the goal there is mainly to do research projects, but it probably never hurts to apply anyway. So the initiative itself is structured quite broadly. There are many people working many things. I have the pleasure of leading the LLM effort of the Swiss initiative together with my colleagues, Antoine Bosselut and Martin Jacki, both who are professors at EPFL. And we decided to build our own models basically for the following reasons. So it's on the one hand, it's about autonomy when it comes to research and development. We wanted to be able to focus on important sovereign dimensions, such as compliance, such as data, but also to be able to control how this model is being deployed. And so this is an important part. Users should have full control over the deployment. And this means that it's not just open, not just behind an API, but really you can deploy it yourself. The 8B model takes about 16 gigabytes and can be hosted on, you can run that on your own machine as well. The 70B model takes about 130 gigabytes, so that's going to be a bit more challenging. But that one can be deployed on cloud resources such as the Swisscom's Swiss AI Cloud or Azure or AWS. And Swisscom has actually, thankfully, Swisscom also is offering these services for you, so you can play around with the big model as well. And so being developed by a public institution, this gives us the advantage to really listen to the community and incorporate lessons learned or even improvements. And so we are very excited to see how to do that exactly and what might come out such that we can actually make the model more useful for the community. Next slide, please. And so Apertus in the end is completely open and transparent. We have a tech report with over 100 pages, which is actually quite technical. So I'm not sure it's, if you're into that, then feel free to read all of it. It's quite a lot, but it also comes with some code for pre-training and evaluation, as well as the data is constructed in a reproducible manner. And the model is shared with a permissive license. It's an open source license that also allows commercial use. Compliant-wise, we have only trained on public data, and we are respecting AI opt-outs through the robots.txt, as well as we deploy methods that have previously not been deployed at this scale, at least not publicly known, that prevent the memorization of copyright data. So if you want to be more of an attacker, then feel free to try to get some protected data out of the model. I think you will struggle, so I don't recommend it, but it would be definitely interesting to see what you can do. We have, in the report, it lays out what data sources we use. And if you need more details about data that we may have incorporated, then feel free to reach out as well. It's multilingual from scratch, so it's quite good as well in non-English data, as it has been trained on about 40% of non-English data. So feel free to play around with that as well. So 2nd of September, about a week ago, we released 2 models, an 8B and a 70B model. You probably know this by now. They've been trained on 15 trillion tokens. So they're very comparable to the Llama 3 family of models, which is the previous generation. And that's the right sort of scale to compare with. Bigger models tend to be bigger, but also more costly to host. So we thought this is a good trade-off between size, like cost in running it, and performance. And at the largest scale, like the 70B, we trained on up to 4,000 GH200 GPUs, so Grace Hopper GPUs with 96 gigabytes of memory each. There are the links here as well, which is great. Next slide, please. These are just to kind of tone down the hype a little bit. So this is not a DeepSeek moment. The model is a magnitude smaller than the frontier models. It's however the strongest model in the class of open source models. And this is quite important because open source means fully reproducible and transparent. This is very different from open weight models, which are only available online. That is, the weights are available, but you don't know what went into training those models. And people are often misusing the term open source in this way. So for example, the newest OpenAI GPT model is not open source, it's open weight, even though they call it open source in like OSS, in the text, actually, they are quite specific about it, that it is not open source, but open weight. Also, other models that you may know, like DeepSeek or Qwen, are not open source models, they're open weight. And it's quite important for certain compliance aspects to check if the model has been trained on illegal data or not. Because such a model you may not want to use to build a product or service, as it might be in conflict with laws in certain jurisdictions, such as Europe. The European AI Act demands a certain transparency of the models, which none of these open weight models provide. Apertus is the only model that actually meets that criteria, and this is something that will be enforced. It's already in the law and will be enforced by summer next year, August 2026. And so naturally, that means that open source models are much more suitable to build upon. for any sort of product or service. And so Apertus is also not a service, a product like a personal assistant or ChatGPT-like. It's really a platform for transparent and responsible development of generative AI. And so I'm quite interested what people can build with this, because that's what it was intended to do, to help build. Next slide, please. Yeah, so this kind of highlights the cycle that we want to kick off. We just started the first round of this, where we trained the foundation model, we aligned it with human values. Details of that are in the report. And now we are looking into communal red teaming, communal building, deployment, and feedback from the community, such that we can do this cycle as often as we can for the time that we have funding. In particular, we're already planning a few things that we're very excited about, which hopefully we can get out before the Swiss AI weeks are done. But the first model now that we release is a base model and an instruction following model. So it's not a thinking model. It's not multimodal, only text for now, but nevertheless quite powerful. And then I think we come to the last part, or the next part, I would say, which I hand over to Jörg, or?
Yes.
Wonderful, thank you.
So one of the reasons we're here is Apertus, and the other reason we're here are the hackathons of Swiss AI Weeks, with the goal and the interest of testing this model. So providing feedback to the developers, but also understanding what the model is strong in and where there is potential, but with a real world footprint. So next slide. So to all the participants of the hackathon, which are over 1,000 by now, we will provide certain technical APIs, so you can immediately use the two different models. And this is part of the session today, where we will show you how to access them and allow also for questions that you're well prepared to perform at these hackathons. So the first API we're providing is the access to the large model hosted on the Swisscom AI platform, which will be introduced later by Daniel, how this will work from a hacker's perspective. The second access you will get during the hackathons is a Hugging Face Enterprise account, which allows for compute. So there you can host your own models. We propose, and this is what Claudio will be showing you later, to host there the 8B model, the small one. So you could set it up because you want to try it out how is to set up in different environments, or you can do some alignment or fine-tuning on the model. So in addition, you will get a 3 months creator plan from 11 Labs, so that you can treat audio, so audio generation and audio capture. And in addition, you will get access to a language API where you can translate text. So in addition to the model, or in a benchmark scenario, A/B test, you can do machine translation against model, you can do voice recognition, transform it to use in the model. So you have the whole toolbox at your hand. So each of the hackathons, there are close to 10, has their own documentation and has their own sites where you get access to these. So you will get this through your registration at the hackathon. As an example here, this is a link from the Zurich hackathon, where you have a tool section that explains what will be shown to you in the next few parts. But so handing over to Daniel to show the first API, the 70B platform host. Oh no, it's Claudio, sorry, to instantiate on Hugging Face.
And Claudia, I think we'll have demos. I will stop sharing.
Yes, hello. I'm going to show how to deploy it on Hugging Face, the 8 billion model. It feels fairly easy, I have to say. So, oh wait, I need to allow. So now I'm sharing, I think. Cool. You can find the model, the Apertus 8 billion instruct model, on Hugging Face. There are several already with fine-tuned and so on. You find it with the Swiss AI prefix. That is the one you want. And when you're on Hugging Face, you have the interface of Hugging Face. And on the left side, you actually have this really nice...
Claudio, you might be sharing the wrong window. We see your LinkedIn window.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah. Now it was moving.
Yeah, wait. I thought I shared a desktop too. This is it. Thank you for telling me.
Now we see Hugging
Oh, it's the
Face.
right one. Sorry, now everything makes more sense that I'm telling, right? So when you're on the Hugging Face, you have the model, the Apertus, with the Swiss AI prefix. So you get the one that they deployed. On the right side, sorry, you have like this really nice button where you can start the inference endpoint. You can do that. I use the NVIDIA L4 for whatever reason. You can search that one. And we need to update on the container. We need a newer SGLang Docker version because we need the newest transformers. At least this is what I know. But you cannot change it directly from the screen in Hugging Face. So you need to create the endpoint. Once you have the endpoint created, you can go to settings and you can go to the container. And here, this is the Docker container that runs it. We have compiled one. I think it's just for a short time until they have their own. You can paste in the Panther one. You click on the update endpoint and it runs. It takes like 15 minutes, I think, with this GPU to start. And then you have actually your Apertus running and usable. I have one that is running, and you can then test it also directly here and just say the usual hello. And then you get an answer at some point. Fairly easy. The only thing is the Docker image that we can provide in the documentation on the Swiss AI Weeks, but I think this will be solved anyway soon by Hugging Face. Yeah, easier than the 70 billion, I have to say.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Claudio. So if you maybe stop sharing, I can go back to the presentation for the next speaker. That's okay?
Not sharing anymore?
Perfect. So here we go. And then now it is how to use Apertus with the Swisscom platform, which I will invite Daniel to be as the next speaker.
Great. Thanks a lot, Katka, and thanks a lot, Claudio. I take that as a challenge to say that basically in over 8 billion model access is easier as for a 7TB model. Hosting it, I totally agree with you. Hopefully making it accessible to our hackers, at least we are as simple or maybe even simple. Let's see together. So if you go to the next slide, please. Yeah, one of the reasons somebody's drawing in our slides. That's nice. Thanks a lot for that. So it's nice arrow there. But basically, one of the reasons why we basically wanted to make sure that you can, as hackers, access to it is trust, neutrality, transparency, and reliability. And this is why we joined the Swiss National AI Institute to create this Apertus model. If you go to the next slide. Basically, this is why basically on Tuesday now we have been publishing the model together with ETH, EPFL, CSCS, and made sure that also we had it deployed right away to our Swisscom employees from day zero, and also the 7TB model also to get now some experience for the hackathons, to make sure that when you guys starting to use it, the API interface is working perfectly, that we have tested it with, I think, up to now several thousand people using it, and 19,000 people have access to it. If you go to the next slide, please. So what we, exactly as you said, what we want to make sure now that you have during the Swiss AI Weeks is the Hugging Face Enterprise Hub team account that you see with a compute, and then an API access through Swisscom digital platform, and then the web chat interface recipes for the hackathon participants. If you go to the next slide. So taking the challenge, okay, somehow the image also shifted here, or I don't know. Can you? This somehow seems to be an old version. Can you just maybe stop and reload, because it has one important image that shows you that using the 70 billion model is as easy as going to your own personal hackathon profile.
Right now, let's say just a second.
And you will see that in a second. So basically, if you go to your own hackathon profile page, that's exactly now. This is the right version. If you could share that, thanks a lot again. So on the top, on the bottom left, you see that basically this is how your Swiss AI Week's hackathon profile will look like, with about information about yourself. And there will be also one of the tabs that contain your API key to access the model. And then the only thing what you additionally need is, for example, a working Python. And then you need this tiny little code snippet where, just to drive you through a little bit, if you haven't seen this, I'm pretty sure many of you have seen that already. You just import two packages. The most important one is OpenAI, because the API is fully compatible with the OpenAI Python library. You then basically put in there, you see this API key.os get.env, and where you get basically, you put there your API key that you get from the profile page. You set up this little streaming with a model of Apertus, and then you can set some messages. One is the system prompt, the other one is the user prompt. There's a detailed instruction that you see on the right here, and we'll share in a few seconds also that link with you here in the chat. I think this should be it. You should see it right now. And so in this easy way, you can then access the model. Security is, maybe if you go to the next slide, please. Security is one of the big concerns that we had together with Emmanuel and others for the model. So we did some testing. I was explaining a little bit about the tests that we have been doing in the last two briefings, so I don't want to basically go through in detail here. But if you look at the recording from the last two tech sessions, you find also quite some statements about the security. This is now an updated version with the final model that you see here, and you see that the model is quite cautious. If we go to the next slide. The key takeaway was that it's even in other languages that are typically in other models are not so safe. It is also quite safe, a little bit less safe in French, German, and Italian compared to English, but not too bad. And it's also basically less overcautious in French, German, and Italian than in English. But again, details you find in the previous recordings. If you go to the next slide. So this is also what we looked into first kind of benchmarking and how much the model cheats. This is also where during the next weeks, we will basically provide you more and more information to let you know basically what we know from the benchmarking. And if you go to the next slide, there is also a possibility if you have very special applications where you would need multiple API keys, where your own API key that you have is not sufficient. Then there's also ways that basically you can create multiple API keys and then separate it by users or by applications or by part of your applications. So there's a way where you can also generate yourself multiple API keys. If you need that for a special application, please let me know, and then I will provide you with more detailed instruction how to do that. But I guess most of you will use in a much easier way, your own API keys that you get provided. If you go to the next slide, I think the other thing that we'll provide you is some recipes, how to set up your own front end. There's Open Web UI that basically allows to set up a front end quite easily. We will provide you with two different recipes. One is basically how to let the front end run on your own laptop. This is really with minimal effort. Basically from scratch, it takes something like 30 minutes to get it running and then connect it to the 70B model API endpoint. And the other one is also how to set it up in a redundant way on a cloud infrastructure. On a Kubernetes cluster, this takes roughly 60 minutes to set it up from beginning to the end. But these are more detailed recipes, which I'm not demonstrating now, but we'll provide you with that. I think if you go to the next slide, we are pretty much at the end. But before that, I also want to tell you a little bit of an additional kind of gimmick that we might have hopefully ready in the next days. So we are doing at the moment testing with a quantization, with a 8 floating point quantization of a big model, of the 7TB model. And we hope that also at the start of a hackathon, we can also provide you a quantized version that basically runs with much less energy consumption, you know, maybe even faster serving, even though what the serving at the moment is quite good. But if we can all save together energy, I think this is, and do it more sustainable, what we're doing, even if we are hacking, I think that's something very positive. But if that turns out that the tests are, you know, that the quantized model behaves as good as the non-quantized model, you will hear from that definitely on Discord or on Hugging Face for sure. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Thank you to everyone. So now we'll go to the Q&A and through the chat. I guess some of them already were answered, so we'll just go to the ones that are not answered. So I would like to know how Swiss LLM both variants compare to GPT OS models in end user performance. Is there any metric where Swiss LLM is comparable to better than GPT OS? Is anybody who would like to pick up this question? Anybody?
So I was typing. It's the comparison between GPT open source and Apertus, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So the answer I brought a bit in the chat as well. So the basically I don't exactly know because we didn't compare with GPT OSS. I would expect that GPT OSS is much better on the particular benchmarks that, you know, OpenAI cares about and in English. And it's probably worse in multilingual, but I wouldn't necessarily bet on it. Also, I'm not 100% sure right now what the size is of GPT OSS. It's 120 billions. It's a bit larger, but roughly the same. So it would be very interesting to compare the two, but I wouldn't bet that the Apertus is any better. Likely, GPT OSS has trained on some high quality distilled data from a much stronger model. It actually looks like they trained on only synthetic data. And that comes with advantages, but also with disadvantages.
Thank you. Do you plan an official GGUF export for Olama LM Studio? How will you handle the XLELU incompatibility that will make Apertus truly democratic or small GPU users?
So I'm aware of the SHIELU problem, and we have an engineer that is working on this. I think for LM Studio, however, it has been merged or is available on LM Studio. I don't know if that automatically translates to Olama as well. Unfortunately, I cannot comment further on this. I know people are very interested in this, but we didn't have the capacity to focus yet fully on this. But LM Studio, I think, supports Apertus out of the box. And there's also this OSX library called XLM or XMLX or something like that, which also allows you to install Apertus with like 3 lines or so. I'm sure someone here knows better than I do.
Anybody else would like to comment? I would like you maybe to answer in the chat. I can maybe go to the next one. Thank you. I'm using OpenRouter AI and I see that Swisscom is using the Open AI API. So should we be able to just switch over? How can I update an API key? Or rather, how can we enter the hackathon?
So maybe
many questions together.
Mm-hmm.
I think entering the hackathon, I think this is maybe the easiest to answer. You go to the web page and you subscribe to one of the hackathons. I know that many of the hackathons are already full. Am I saying something wrong here, Katka? I know that some are still have places. I think Geneva has still some places, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, so Geneva is still open. The rest are pretty much all full, but there is waiting list. So if you're interested, you can go there and then still apply, and we will be sorting that out in the upcoming days. That's fine.
And so thank for the person who actually pointed out that we actually did invalid in GPT-OSS. That must have been something that was added in the last minute. I didn't realize that Apertus 8B is actually better than GPT-OSS on like the pre-trained benchmarks at least. I'm not so sure about post-trained benchmarks. It's probably in the tech report. This was a huge effort with over 50 people, so I apologize if I don't know everything, but it looks like it's actually quite competitive, if not better. And yeah, MLX is the library for Apple users that makes it very easy to install Apertus models locally. Although for the 70B, you will need quite a bit of memory.
Then I believe there is not more additional questions that were not answered in the chat, so you can just enter more. I have one tricky question maybe. So Emmanuel, if you were in Hackathon and you were using Apertus, what will be your personal tricks that you'd be really excited to hack?
Oh, I don't know. I think every model has a bit its own personality that one has to basically figure out a little bit. And I'm not quite sure yet what that is for Apertus. It's still quite young. So I'm going to be there to learn. I want to see like what people can do. I already noticed that system prompt works quite well. It can affect the quality of the chat quite a bit. So I'm going to be excited to figure out what works best. I saw maybe there's another question here I can quickly address. Like is Swiss German included in the languages? So there was actually very little Swiss German. We supported basically the more or less natural distribution of all the languages on the web, which means there's over 1,000 languages that have gone into it and many scripts. And so the model is actually quite good at picking up other languages, in particular if they're low resource, but very similar to a high resource language. So you will find that it's much better than like other open models that are much more one-dimensional in the languages to train on, like Llama, for example. And for Swiss German, we had a little bit, but as you know, there's not that much Swiss German online. And if there is, then it's probably from some social media website, which is not the best. However, we had, and details are in the report, I think only about 2,000 examples of Swiss German, either instruction following or translation examples. Some of the translation examples were just synthetically generated using a strong translation model. And then we had translations and we just translated the high resource language, like High German, for example, into French. And then you have Swiss German to French, for example. And only doing this and then following SFT, which is not so trivial, we were able to actually unlock quite a bit of Swiss German language capability. Now it's far from perfect, of course, but we were surprised how far we got with the little effort we did. And so, I mean, this is hard to do during a hack maybe, but something that is super valuable are very much domain specific or tailored SFT data, which is like conversational data that is about a particular topic or a particular capability. And then one can fine tune, for example, an 8B model on this, and the model will pick this up much more. If there are high quality SFT data sets, we're very happy to include them for the next version. If it's really good, then you might also be mentioned as a contributor. We're kind of still building that up. But if this is something you want to do, this is super exciting.
Thank you. The next one is question is, are you planning to bring Apertus to Open Router AI or Together AI or other services?
So I don't know about Together AI. It is online on a bunch of other cloud providers apart from Azure and AWS and Swisscom, the big three. And we have a few other cloud providers in Switzerland that are hosting it. Router is something that we would love to get it on, but actually we're not 100% sure how to go about it, to be honest. So I know that Martin is looking into that.
Daniel?
And also we are trying to put it on Ollama, which has the advantage that once you have installed, for example, a front end like Open Web UI, then basically you can install all kind of different models directly from the web user interface with a click. And this would be also one of the goals that we're currently working on, to have also the model on Ollama. So once you did this kind of setup of your front end, in 30 minutes you can click and you have an Apertus also installed.
That's actually amazing because I didn't know that. I do know it's available already on LM Studio, right? So that's, I think, one of the other popular applications for that next to Llama.
You say there are no filters applied. The security guardrails come from instruct tuning alone.
So I guess maybe this answer is partially also for Daniel. I guess when it comes to the model itself doesn't have guardrails, right? It's the core of an AI system. That's the AI model or the LLM. And so the AI system may have guardrails by looking at what is sent to the model and what the model outputs. The model itself, however, is instruction following. So it means we have made it conversational and tuned to be able to answer questions. And this immediately introduces a certain ideology. So the model is behaving in a way that we designed. And we have details of that in the technical report, including the Swiss AI Charter. And it essentially means that the model is not always going to give a response. It will also refuse, in particular, if whatever you want to do is considered toxic or harmful or dishonest or criminal. The model should do a good job at refusing, but I'm sure it's not perfect, although it is actually pretty good, maybe sometimes too strong. That it would be super cool to see an evaluation of that or an analysis of that as well. For us, that would be a very valuable outcome, of course.
Thank you. What are the capacities of the model for tool calling? Yeah,
so we have the chat template of the Apertus models supports tool calling. It is, however, experimental, and we have trained on some SFT data which supports tool calling, but we have not had the time to evaluate it. And to do proper tool calling, you really need to train this in a reinforcement learning setting. Now, this is something we are working on, and we hope that we will make progress very soon that we can share with everyone. But right now, consider it highly experimental, and I don't know how good it is. But it has been trained on maybe like 80,000 or so tool calling examples or function calling examples.
Thank you. I believe there was a question of Swisscom. Any idea on what token pricing will be once it's officially released?
No, and this is, to be very honest, this is also very early. At the moment, we are at the stage where we're looking into exploring together with you what is the potential and what other opportunities with this model. We have other models already available. I think they are free for the end of the year. For example, My AI Swisscom, which uses, I think, Claude underneath this, which has tool usage. Obviously, we are very interested to also, as soon as the model is good enough and we figured out maybe after the Swiss AI weeks that it is useful and it is wanted by the people, to also offer it in this very similar way.
Thank you.
Maybe
Go for it, sorry.
Comment also to the question that was asked before. Yes, there are basically ETH and EPFL and many different companies, including Google, Microsoft, Swisscom, have an AI red teaming initiative together where we testing all this kind of models. And obviously we did all kind of tests that we did with other models. But I think we also want you as hackers in this hackathon to really also take a red teaming approach, also try to, poke the model a little bit, test it, see what kind of not perfect behavior, as Emmanuel said, might be happening, and also, help us want to improve on that model. Because we can do what we know from other models, but as Emmanuel said, this is also a young model with maybe an own little personality. And so maybe we'll find things that we haven't seen with other models, or that maybe just behave better. So thanks a lot if you also then tell us about these cases where the model could be improved.
Thank you. The next question I can see is, I want to use it for greenhouse automation by using MCP server to connect with Shelly's. Any suggestions?
Yeah, so MCP is tool calling. You can try it. I'm not sure it will be perfect. This is one of the most important things to improve as we move forward.
The next one I can see here regarding goldfish. lends to be limited textualization memorization. Have you observed any unexpected trade-offs? For example, does this technique affect more models' ability to quote sources accurately or to memorize useful facts when asked?
Yeah, so that's one of the things that makes it very different from previous models. This goldfish loss is a way of preventing the memorization of the training data. It works very well. We have added some control data in the pre-training from public domain books, which very effectively showed that the model does not memorize the data, but it can still memorize sometimes. And this is when documents are extremely popular and come in different styles, even though it's essentially the same text, by definitely having new lines and such. And what we see is that memorization, then the outliers we have that are still memorized within that control data are things like the US Constitution, Bible paragraphs, and similar things like this, which are actually completely non-problematic regarding copyright. So we are totally fine with it, but there is definitely some lessons learned. Like if a text appears many, many times on the web, because we also deduplicate the data, the training data, but if it appears many times on the web in ways that are sufficiently different, it might have been exposed to the model quite a lot, and then the model will memorize it. But we have actually not found any particular examples where the model fails to memorize a quote, because usually also quotes are actually too short. The hash that we use to decide if a token is dropped or not is, I think, 50 tokens. Or actually, no, 20 tokens. So maybe a longer quote could apply, but I would be, even then, it's like a 40% chance or so that it is, no, sorry, a 2% chance that it is being dropped. So I'm not 100% sure you will find anything that is problematic in this way. But if you do, please let us know.
Mm-hmm. Next one is, you deliberately included synthetic data to study data poisoning. What were the first lessons learned? These begin poisons persist after the fine-tuning and alignment stages.
Yeah, so this was a work from some people from Tramer's lab, which essentially included some fake news, I guess you could call them, like Pokemons that had attributes that they don't really have, and some other benign changes to reality, so to speak. It turns out this poisoning was way too little. It had no effect whatsoever on the model in the end. And so it seems to be, it's a lesson, it's something we have learned that poisoning needs to be at much larger scale to be effective. And this was something that we did somewhat in parallel to the memorization thing, which I already mentioned, with excerpts out of the, from public domain books, like from the Gutenberg library.
Mm-hmm. And then the next one, we have the conclusion of the technical report mentions several future directions, such as distillation, seasoning with adaptive calculation, RLVR, and multimodality. Was the top priority of the next version of Apertus?
I guess it depends a bit what next version is. So the thing that is probably going to be in the next release very soonish, without giving a deadline, because we learned deadlines are not necessarily the best for the mental health for everyone involved, is reasoning or thinking like an RL stage, essentially. So it's right now Apertus is a base model, an instructions following model, which means SFT training and alignment training. But the last stage is RL. So training with a reinforcement learning algorithm on verifiable rewards, typically using code or math data, math data, not math. And a bunch of, we have like a bunch of reasoning and code puzzles in there as well. And this should improve performance quite a bit regarding tool use capability, web search and such. And this is probably the next one on the horizon and thus the highest priority. But it's we're not sure yet when it will be ready to release.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. The next one we have here, it's Apertus, the first LLM of this scale to be developed by a public academic consortium. How do you see this development model competing of coexisting sustainably with the efforts of major private industrial laboratories?
I see Thomas is asking the hard questions here. So let me see. How do you see this development model competing, coexisting? Yes. Okay. So the goal here is not to replace ChatGPT, Gemini, Claude, or whatever your go-to personal assistant is. The goal here is to provide a platform for the research and development within academia and industry for the use of generative AI to build products and services and to better understand how this technology works and deploy it. Of course, the frontier models are going to be better if you need to answer PhD level biology questions, for example. I mean, that's the level at which the frontier models are being compared with right now. But I doubt that this is super relevant for you at this moment. Probably most of the queries that will be resolved by, let's say, an LLM will be able to be solved by smaller models as well. And hence also GPT-5 being a router model, because most of people who ask basic questions can then just be routed to a smaller model with some web search capability to resolve, and thus save OpenAI a lot of energy costs. And so yeah, I think there is definitely a place for compliant and completely transparent models for research and development in this place to maintain a certain sovereignty and independence of from big tech companies.
Thank you. And the next one I can see is another really long one. So the report states that the models are designed to comply with the provisions of EU AI Act. In practical terms, what does this mean for a company deploying Apertus and a commercial product in Europe? Does it reduce its compliance burden or legal risks?
I think it reduces its risk. So, I mean, maybe I should have had a bit more time for a longer presentation, because those are questions I address in my regular talk, but it would take then a bit longer, to 30 and 40 minutes. So to keep it short, the European AI Act has a section on general purpose AI systems, for example. In there, it has a section which says that these models need to be, or these systems need to provide transparency with respect to the data they've been trained on. Now, this is law in the European AI Act, in European jurisdictions, but it's not being enforced yet. It will be enforced by August of 2026. Right now, Apertus is the only model that complies with this law in the sense that I guess most people would understand it. So how it will be implemented, and really, that's still a bit open. Maybe the implementation will look totally different. But usually what is said about transparency and the data that's been used to train is reduced to maybe one sentence within the technical report that comes with the open weight models. The closed models don't even have such a sentence, or some open weight models also don't. And so if you are a company that is building a product or service upon something that might be illegal in the near future in Europe, I mean, naturally, that is a risk that you are taking. And if you don't want to take that risk, then Apertus might be an alternative. But who knows? I mean, the things are changing quickly, and I can't predict the future more than anyone else. So take it with a grain of salt.
Thank you very much. I believe we're really fast on the questions. I tried to ask as fast as possible, so I think no more questions. Are there maybe additional points from anybody who would like to add before we might close to this session?
I saw someone actually checked if the model can provide meth recipes. I'm just wondering if they really have the capability to judge that and what that says about them. But that's super interesting.
Probably just use the frontier model to compare.
Ah, yes.
And I can make maybe a
it
quick
refuses
statement
probably.
towards what was asked also in the last questions for companies. There will be several events during the Swiss AI Weeks which exactly deal with that question. If you go and look, there's basically some workshops for small and medium enterprises, how they can use that model and what kind of legal consequences or legal precautions they would need to take, and the comparison why it's much easier with Apertus model compared to other existing models. So go to the Swiss AI Weeks events. I know there's one that is in Geneva, which is done from the Fédération des Entreprises Romandes and FEAR about that. And I think there's another one, but maybe Katka, you remember one that is also targeted towards companies using it and what kind of legal implications that had.
Yes. Yeah, I think on this one, this is maybe perfect gateway for everyone to also check all of the challenges. So if you go to the Swiss AI Weeks, by now we combined all of the challenges there for all of the cities. So you can see that. And one of the things that what we usually also say is that we don't have a restrictions that you can only start hacking once you join the hackathon. You can already start kind of now. So I would like to encourage you to finalize all of the questions we're asking you, which is connected to choosing the challenges and the matching, so you can already find your team and start to compete, which is very exciting for all of us. So this is maybe, and also of course learning from each other. So I think this is something that maybe I would like to point. If you have any questions, please ask in Discord or reach out to us. We'll be really happy to do that. When you were asking us if you're going to share this presentation recording, yes, we will. So you can go back to it and you can share that also with your teams and with your colleagues. And maybe to see, are there additional last questions or points before I will send you to the beautiful afternoon?